Hello there. Good morning to you. Should I just say welcome back to everyone? It is Mayegun Live. Thank you so much for joining me from wherever you are joining tonight. Please hear this broadcast. Take your time, read beyond the headlines or the rider. Read the description of this chart tonight. We are going to spend a lot of time in Kenya today. And if you are watching me from Nigeria, which many of you are, and if you are a Nigerian watching from your comfort zone, there's a lot of lesson to pick from this. And so therefore, please share the broadcast. Tell everyone. What Nigerians are told to endure is what you are now watching as a movie. The Kenyans are rejecting with their blood. There's a lot of lesson here. Kenya is divided like Nigeria. Politicians are very corrupt in Kenya, just like Nigeria. Nigerians are religious, Abi, so are Kenyans. Ethnic, tribe, politics, and all of this stuff, they are also very much evident in Kenya. When the government came for their source of survival, they couldn't take it anymore. They left all of their division behind and they confronted their fear. They're going to get something out of it. Don't beg your oppressors. There is no slave master that freely releases any slave in history. There is no freedom that is free. There is so much lesson to learn here. You share the broadcast, please. Thank you. Motide. So good morning and afternoon and evening to everyone. And thank you for joining me again. So this afternoon or this morning for some, we started following the developments in Kenya, in and around Kenya. So we saw how the government, their president said he was going to look into the demands of these young people, and their demands are very straightforward. Kenya, like Nigeria, William Ruto, like typical politician, told, well, I mean, he was kind of speaking in the language that appealed to young Kenyans. You know, messages like the reasons why Africa is not developing is not just the corruption. It is because of all these loans, or most of African leaders turning themselves into the puppets of Western powers. So he was speaking so glowingly well that he actually attracted supporters from outside Kenya. When he was about to be robbed of becoming president of Kenya, these young people rose against what they thought was the establishment at the time. Their president, within a year in office, did not just become a puppet of the Western power. He actually wanted himself, he positioned himself to be their poster boy in Africa. No joke. Kenyans were bleeding. Kenyans were struggling economically. But IMF and World Bank are always there to give him free cash with stringent conditions, economic conditions. Meanwhile, in one of the videos of Ruto, their president, that make it to the media by this Gen Z, you know, like somebody said, like the broadcast we had earlier today, where one Kenyan said, the mistake that the establishment in Kenya, the mistake they have made is that they have allowed the younger generation to acquire education. And this education is not about how to read and write, how to speak grammar, accent, and all of that. It is how to read the society you are living in. That, listen, if you have heard about how some people destroyed, or their actions destroyed Kenya, maybe you didn't live through that time. It is now happening. You are a young person. You are watching people who are supposed to care for the country, but caring for themselves, while the country can go to places. So the younger people are kind of more educated in that regard, that this is history in the making. We are not reading this from years ago. This is actually happening. We are watching these guys destroy our lives, destroy our education, destroy our future. We are not reading about it. That's what that guy said. He said that is the mistake that the establishments in Kenya have made, and they will find out. They will find out, and they're already finding out. As you are watching this video, there is no National Assembly in Kenya anymore right now. Maybe tomorrow, maybe they can reconvene in one hotel or one conference house elsewhere. But the National Assembly of Kenya has completely been taken over by the angry, oppressed, suppressed, brutalized, and murdered Kenyans who have had enough. And right now, they have become the role model for so many other young people across Africa. There could be a wind blowing. IMF is giving these African countries loans with ridiculous conditions. World Bank, IMF, they are tinkering with the monetary policies of all these African countries, loading them with debt and debt, while this same money, this same debt, are also being looted by these African rulers. Their people are subjected into everlasting poverty. And they have to prove to the World Bank, they have to prove to the IMF that they can pay back those loans by going back to their countries and taxing their already overtaxed citizens, tax them to death. During their presidential debates, he was specifically asked about what has now become a problem in Kenya. It is now a full-blown state of emergency, by the way. But before he got to this was the Ruto that younger people in Kenya killed behind, fought for, were killed for. Like the obedient you have in Nigeria, yeah? That's exactly what it was about 2 years ago, too. In Kenya. And they all lined up to make this guy their president. But during the debate, he was asked about the tax issue. Hear him.
What do you propose to do with that? Because there's also, a current subsidy in place for that. What do you think is the solution to the rising cost of fuel, which, as you know, drives the cost of a number of other products?
I think the first thing that we need to do is to look at the taxes, because 50% almost of the cost of fuel in Kenya is taxes. I think it's time, as a country, we looked at, I think there are 15 different taxes on fuel. And I think it's time we relooked at how else do we raise revenue.
Which taxes would you be proposing to remove from fuel, the cost of fuel?
I think majority of the taxes that are in that bracket, I think there are almost 15 different taxes that are there. I do not have the specifics, but those 15, I think we need to interrogate these 15 different taxes. Which ones can we put aside so that, like other countries, we can limit the taxation on fuel? Take, for example,
let me
VAT.
ask, yeah. Yes, okay,
take, for example, VAT.
Correct.
I think we need to rethink taxation, VAT taxation on fuel. That was the latest inclusion of taxes on fuel. And I think it was very controversial.
Yeah, Honorable Ruto, VAT on petroleum products was indeed controversial. Let me take you back to 2013 when VAT was imposed on this as a condition by IMF. At the time, then Majority Leader Aden Duale said, and I quote, "The 181 members have been convinced by our party leader and our deputy party leader on the rationale of 8% VAT on petroleum products." What do you propose?
So he's a member of parliament. He was a member of parliament himself. He was a vice president, deputy leader of Kenya at some point. And then suddenly he was like, no, I'm fighting for the poor Kenyans. I'm going to, yeah. So IMF has been dealing with African countries, including Kenya, for a while. So their local politics always resonates that. People knows those who are behind their economic hardship and how their politicians are making that happen. So this guy was supposed to be a breath of fresh air. Unfortunately, it is never to be. So they put out a post for the past 2-3 weeks. They were telling their lawmakers, their senators, their reps, reject Finance Bill 2024. Don't amend it. Don't edit it. Wipe it off completely. Because this is going to push 40% more, like it's going to push 40% Kenyans into more poverty. How would you do this? And then they're like, it's just sacrifice. They need the money. This guy budgeted 1.1 Kenyan shillings, right? Which is like to say 1.1 billion naira. Not 1.1 billion per se. Because if you compare their money to that of Nigeria, you'll be looking at something about 400 billion naira, yeah? But 1.1 billion Kenyan shillings. Just for his own aides. Special advisors, they need cars, they need houses, they need to take care of themselves so that they can work for him, the president, 1.1 billion. So it's the way the price of your regular commodities in Nigeria, basic things that you buy in Nigeria, milk, sugar, bread, rice, food generally, the same way things jumped from 0 to over 500% increase. Is exactly how the Kenyans have been battling with that too. So they thought they had a relief. 2 weeks, they were everywhere. They were building momentum, telling these guys, reject these things. Guess what? The politicians were talking down on them. Hey, homo. Like they were threatening them. They had the social media sellers too from Kenya. Some of them not living in Kenya. Like the same way you have it in Nigeria, go, 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 go. That's exactly the way it is in Kenya. Defending the government, explaining economy, explaining this whole thing is happening all over the world. The whole world is coming to the same nonsense they are telling you in Nigeria. They hired people to say the same thing to the Kenyans. But Kenyans are not that stupid, you know. They are looking at their politicians spending billions, tens, hundreds of billions of their money on taking care of themselves. To the point that there are politicians in Kenya today that are famous, not because they have any business or anything, but they are famous for sharing thousands upon thousands of Kenyan shillings like that, right? Their money to support churches, mosques, youth association, women association, market women, all of that. Stolen money that could be used to provide proper amenities and make life easier, or even subsidize the hardship that they are unloading on the people, right? People are seeing them. There are videos. Don't do it. They said they would do it. Parents better warn their children. You better warn your children. If they dare government, so they started kidnapping them. When things like 4 or 5 days ago, they started kidnapping these young people through the social media posts. Whenever they see them post anything on social media, they will lead it and capture them. Look at all these guys. These were the people that are the famous ones that are currently kidnapped by the government. So they were told that nobody can fight government, nobody can defeat government. The sellers, they were playing mind games with people. But the main people, the real people that this thing is going to affect, nobody's going to change their mind. So this morning was supposed to be the time that the parliament will finally pass, and then, forwarded the bill to Ruto for him to sign it. And all of this protest will be for nothing. So they told everyone, don't come out. Kenyan government brought in snipers to kill their own people. And indeed, they did kill people. In front of the parliament building, about 4 or 5 people were shot. There are actually 2 of them that were indeed the victims of the snipers. The world should be watching now. United Nations, America, UK, EU, all of them. See, they are watching. In the process, they are building their propaganda in a way that by the time the military move in to try to crush the protest, because that's the last resort, the politicians have run away now. Okay? So it is now, some of them have already started moving their families out of Kenya right now. There are people who have already started uploading videos of politicians leaving town, running away, because people are beginning to go and target the buildings, properties, businesses of some of those MPs in Kenya, burn them down, destroy them. I'll show you some of them. I will show you some of them. But before you got to all of this, the politicians were like, we have the power, we're always ready, we have all the instruments. So they pushed on. So this morning, the Supreme Court of Kenya released a statement concerning the kidnapped people, right? Said, I have noted with deep concern the numerous allegations regarding the abduction of protesters amid the ongoing mass protest in our country. Such actions executed by persons not identifying themselves and without presenting the abducted individuals before a court of law amount to a direct assault on the rule of law, human rights, and constitutionalism, which are our guiding national values and principles of governance as enshrined in Article 10 of the Constitution. I want you to pay attention to the wording, so that's why I'm reading. That is why I'm reading that out. The Supreme Court of Kenya made a statement, and that statement is not to threaten the protesters to start with. It is to acknowledge that Kenyans are being kidnapped for asking the government to step down a bill that will make 40% of them more poorer. And the government is going to do it anyway, whether they like it or not. Nothing is going to happen. We're going to do it. Then they started kidnapping their own citizens, torturing them, shooting them, and killing them, right? So the Supreme Court, which is the office of the Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, right? They said our transformative constitution mandates that law enforcement operates strictly within the confines of the Bill of Rights and the law. Article 49 specifies the right of arrested persons, including the right to be informed of the reasons for the arrest, to communicate with an advocate and others whose assistance is necessary, and to be presented before a court as soon as reasonably possible, but not later than 24 hours after the arrest. Furthermore, Article 51 addresses the right of persons detained or held in custody, including their entitlements to petition for an order of habeas corpus. Given these constitutional guarantees, I call upon all state agencies within the justice sector to uphold their constitutional duties and ensure that their actions are compliant with both the Constitution and the law. Any deviation from the stipulations of the Bill of Rights and the law not only invites anarchy and lawlessness in our country, but also constitutes a severe assault on the value order of governance stipulated in Article 10 of the Constitution. Agencies within the justice sector, working under the auspices of the National Council on the Administration of Justice, NCAJ, have in the past committed to working towards ensuring that ours becomes a human rights-based criminal justice system that adheres to the Constitution, particularly the Bill of Rights and the law. I therefore urge all agencies in the justice sector to process any criminal actions lawfully and to investigate and address the allegations regarding abductions related to the ongoing protest with utmost urgency. I take this opportunity to assure the nation that the courts are prepared to operate beyond standard working hours if the abducted persons are presented before court, and also to consider any petitions for habeas corpus. This commitment is to ensure that our nation continues on the path of the rule of law and constitutionalism, and to guarantee that all state and non-state actors operate within the strict boundaries erected by our Bill of Rights. Honorable Justice Martha Koome, Chief Justice and Chairperson of the National Council on the Administration of Justice, NCAJ. So that is lesson number one, which simply means that the protesters, they are operating based on their rights as long as they are peaceful. The security agencies themselves, or security agents themselves, they must also be professional by protecting these protesters. Any use of force or abducting people that the court is not aware of is actually a violation of the Constitution. Now, that is the Supreme Court judge saying that already to the government of Ruto. Anything where you put your hand in, our hand no deal. We just want you to know that all these actions that you are taking, remember, there is actually law. They are not threatening, using a section of a criminal code to threaten the citizens. Imagine if the Supreme Court released a statement and says, all Kenyans, we need to warn you, parents, you need to warn your children. This justice system will be very much clinical and threaten them. That's what will happen in Nigeria. That's lesson number one. Okay? Then lesson number two. These protesters, they categorically said, if these lawmakers should go ahead and pronounce the pass of that bill, they will never be able to move it beyond the premises of the National Assembly. So today, when they put this poster out, they called it total showdown. It is now or never. You know what I mean? If we don't actually stop it now, that's it. All the people killed, people kidnapped, harassed, assaulted, and the rest of them, they would have all died for nothing. All of this would have been for nothing. The government didn't back down. They mobilized more soldiers, more policemen armed to the teeth to face the angry citizens.